and girls. Welcome to Emergency Management Associates, coming to you from the Area Command, 392 miles west of Kitty Hawk Beach, North Carolina. Want to welcome everybody here who's going to view this program tonight. We want to welcome you here, and we appreciate you being here with us on Emergency Management Associates. Now, folks, we're going to get right into tonight's program. We're already an hour late. I wanted to get it here over an hour ago, and we've had some issues. But I wanted to tell you we're here for you, okay? We've got the latest information for all of us, and we're going to share it with you tonight. Now, no matter what happens, we're going to give you the information you need to know about any emergencies or disasters that may come to haunt each one of us, okay? I promise you that. We're going to give you the information you know to be able to be prepared for whatever happens in our own neighborhoods, our own cities, our own towns, and our states and our countries, okay? Now, I want to start this night off by talking about a plane crash in Philadelphia. It's a very sad state of affairs what has happened. Now we've had 5 plane crashes. 5 plane crashes in 1 month's time period, within 31 days, okay? The last one was in Philadelphia Friday night, okay? Debris all over the ground, literally. Let me show you a picture of what we're talking about right here. Look at that. Debris all over the ground. That's part of the aircraft there. That aircraft was a Learjet 55. It was a medical evacuation jetliner. It wasn't full-blown jetliner, but it was a jetliner none the same, a Learjet. It carried a crew of total of 6 people on board. 2 pilots, a flight doctor and a flight nurse, and a young patient, a female patient, and her mother. Okay, we're going to talk about that. It's a very sad state of affairs that has happened. Now, I'm going to give you a lot of information tonight. You may want to take notes to be here in case you want to ask questions. Okay, I will answer questions here. I promise you we will answer questions here tonight. Okay, regarding the Philadelphia plane crash. Okay, I posted information on our YouTube channel last night in regards to the plane crash. 7 people were killed. 6 in the aircraft, like I said, a mother, a female pediatric patient, a flight nurse, a doctor, and 2 pilots on board. 1 other person in the vehicle was killed on the ground. 4 crew members, 2 passengers, a pediatric patient, and her mother were on the plane in the Philadelphia crash. They were headed for Springfield Branson National Airport in Missouri. Springfield Branson National Airport in Missouri. They were all Mexican nationals, including the 2 pilots. They were all Mexican nationals, including the 2 pilots. The area surrounding the plane crash is still closed as an investigation is still ongoing. Parts of the plane flew everywhere when the plane nosedived from 1,500 feet down to the ground. The plane got up to 1,500 feet before it had some real problems, and then it nosedived into the ground. Okay, schools in Philadelphia were open today. With that said, the plane was scheduled to fly from Philadelphia to Tijuana International Airport with 1 stop in Springfield, Missouri for fuel. Okay? Again, the plane was scheduled to fly from Philadelphia to Tijuana International Airport just south of San Diego with 1 stop in Springfield, Missouri for fuel. That's according to the air ambulance spokesman. Okay? 1 person in the vehicle on the ground, like I said, also died. It's very unfortunate what's happened. Okay? Now, in all, everyone on the plane, like I said, were Mexican nationals. But there were a total of 25 people injured. 25 people injured on the ground. That's an increase of 5 people 22 people on the ground were injured. That's an increase of 5 people over what we knew about last night. Okay? The area surrounding the plane crash, as I said, is still closed pending the end of the investigation, and the investigation is still ongoing right now. Now, what's going to happen? That area is going to be closed until all of the fragments of the plane and any other materials from that accident are retrieved by professionals, either the coroner's office or the police department or ATF. ATF, alcohol, tobacco, firearms, and explosions is also on the scene. The FBI is there. The FAA is still there. Everybody's going to get a piece of this action, including the National Transportation Safety Board. They're going to take everything from the plane crash site to a hangar or a warehouse, and then reassemble as many parts close together as they can be so they can try to put this whole aircraft together and find out exactly what went wrong. Okay? They're going to assemble all the pieces, and I'm not talking about gluing them back together or anything. They're going to place them on the ground to get as near a good possible eye on what happened on Friday night. Okay? The plane was loaded with jet fuel that is highly flammable. And if any of you saw the video showing the plane explode on the ground, that would be one indication that nobody survived the accident. And by the debris field was spread over 6 or 7 blocks. The entire debris field was spread all over 6 or 7 blocks. Okay? Anyone looking at the thing would be pleasantly surprised to know otherwise. Okay? It's huge. The Philadelphia Mayor, Cheryl Parker, and I aired the video of the mayor talking on Saturday morning. Okay? She said at a press conference Friday night that she was unable to confirm the number of fatalities, but that has come out now. A total of 7 people, 6 in the plane and 1 on the ground. A senior Philadelphia fire official told Fox News the fire was caused by the crash. The fires there on the ground were caused by the crash. 1 house and 1 other building were on fire. A row house was on fire. Okay? When the plane went down, it sprayed jet fuel over a huge area, soaking nearby row homes, which went up in flames. 6 total houses and 6 cars were caught on fire. The National Transportation Safety Board is leading the investigation, like I said. The FAA is going to assist. The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosives in Philadelphia is also assisting. The FAA, the National Transportation Safety Board, like I said, the FBI is there. Everybody and their dogs on scene. Okay? As well as the investigators from Philadelphia Police Department. U.S. Department of Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy said he had briefed President Donald Trump and Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro. Now, what else is going to happen? What else is going to happen? I'm going to tell you right now, we will keep you informed about what is going to happen in Philadelphia and what has already happened. Okay? I promise you, you will know that. Now, I want to also talk about what has happened in Washington, D.C. plane crash. On Wednesday evening, there was a huge plane crash in Washington, D.C., as you know. Okay? It was an incredible plane crash. Now, if you guys have seen the video of the plane crash, you knew it was a helicopter. You knew it was a helicopter that hit the plane. Now, what happened? I'm going to explain this as clear as I possibly can. The plane was en route to the airport, like I said the other night. Okay? The A351A, I believe it was, a jetliner from American Airlines was en route to Washington, D.C. Airport, Reagan National Airport. They originally were supposed to come directly in on runway 1, just like this, okay? Following the Potomac River northbound to runway 1. But about 5 minutes before the event happened, the air traffic controller diverted the aircraft to runway 33, okay? Runway 1 went right down the side by the Potomac River like this. Runway 33 went like this, okay? Went like this. Runway 33 had to go like this instead of following runway 1, okay? Had to go in like this. As a result, the plane had to divert to the northeast side like this. Then it was going to bank and come into runway 33 like this, okay? When it had to go out to the northeast, the helicopter coming from the northwest, again following the Potomac River, okay? Following the Potomac River, it hit this broadside on the right side of the plane. It hit broadside right into the right side of the aircraft, okay? Just like this, okay? What had happened? Let me explain this to you, okay? Let me explain this to you. It's very hard, okay? Preliminary data from the National Transportation Safety Board shows that the pilots of the plane tried to pull the jet's nose up within seconds of the deadly midair collision. The pilots of the plane tried to pull the nose up like this, okay? The American Airlines flight involved in the deadly collision with the Black Hawk helicopter over Washington, D.C. seemed to increase its pitch, just like this, just before the impact, okay? That's according to the data flight recorder. They recovered the data flight recorder from both the helicopter and the American Airlines plane, okay? At one point, very close to the impact, there was a slight change in pitch like this. The pilots tried to pull up the nose once they saw the helicopter, trying to get out of the helicopter's way, okay? Again, the pilot of the helicopter was asked by the air traffic controller, do you see the plane? Do you see the plane? There was one other plane taking off from Reagan International Airport. One plane in the air, okay? The pilot may have seen that one. The pilot of the helicopter may have seen that one, all right? But as I said before, there was a lot of other things going on in the air, okay? The pilot could see all of the lights all around Washington, D.C., including the Washington Monument. That may have happened. That may have happened. The pilot may have seen all of the lights of the airport. I showed you that the other day. Okay? But again, I don't believe the helicopter really saw the plane before the impact. That's what I believe. Okay? Now, I want to show you the crash site right now. This is the picture of them this morning. Okay? You see the recovery boats in the water. You also see the debris field on the ground. You see the debris field here on the water here, all over the water. The helicopter and the plane. The helicopter and the plane are on the water, just at the water surface. The water is only 7 feet deep in this area. All right? You see that one of the recovery boats there? This is the Coast Guard cutter. This is a private boat right here. There have been other boats all over this area since Thursday morning. Wednesday night, Thursday morning. Now, it's still ongoing, okay? By tonight, early tomorrow, we're going to have a crane, a water boat crane, that's going to be able to pick up the fragments of the fuselage of the aircraft and also the helicopter. There are still bodies in the water. are still bodies in the water, still bodies in the aircraft. Okay? That's not going to change for a little while. It's not going to change for a little while. But anyway, like I said just a few minutes ago, the pilots of the plane saw the helicopter, and it appears that they were trying to pull the plane up a little further, okay, to try to avoid the helicopters hitting the plane, okay? Now, according to the National Transportation Safety Board, they're still examining the aircraft black box to determine any other information that might be there to give them a clue about what happened. Okay, they're still going over the data. The finding is one of the first pieces of information that has emerged as the NTSB works to investigate this disaster, in which 67 people have thought to have been killed. The Black Hawk helicopter, the Military Army Black Hawk helicopter, the Sikorsky Black Hawk helicopter, was training to evacuate government personnel in the event of a catastrophe when the collision with a passenger jet occurred. Okay? The helicopter was training to pick up government personnel, government VIPs, in case of a major evacuation at the U.S. Capitol. Okay? That's why this aircraft hit the plane. Okay? It was on a training mission. Now, I'm going to get in this more here. I would just beg your patience as we get into this. I want to explain everything that happened. Again, the NTSB is still working to transcribe the entirety of the audio from voice recorders. Okay? Preliminary findings announced at the news conference today indicate that the helicopter may have been flying above the altitude allowed in that corridor. Right now it just appears that the helicopter was traveling at a higher altitude than it was supposed to be. The helicopter should normally only fly 200 feet off the ground. No more than 200 feet off the deck. Okay? But the plane was about 350 feet off the deck, meaning the helicopter was flying higher than it should have been. Okay? American Airlines regional plane was flying about 350 feet, plus or minus 25 feet at the time of the impact. The data available on the air traffic controllers showed the helicopter was at 200 feet near the time of the accident. That's where it should have been, at 200 feet. Okay? The unexplained discrepancy is going to have further investigation. The unexplained discrepancy between 200 feet and 350 feet is going to have to be gone into further. All right? Don Pato says truth equals facts can be subject to the definition of what is or isn't. Okay? Now, if the impact, and I'm saying that's a big if the impact did take place at 325 feet off the deck, it would have been well over the 250-foot or 200-foot limit in which the helicopters are restricted in that corridor. Now, you might ask why the helicopters are restricted to that 250-foot altitude. Because there are planes in the air. There are planes in that area, okay? The planes are at a higher altitude right before they come in over the runway, okay? Now, because of that, the helicopters are supposed to hug the eastern side of the Potomac River. Okay, they're supposed to hug the eastern side of the Potomac River. But again, what happened? What happened Wednesday night? Air traffic control asked the plane to go out northeast over the far eastern side of the Potomac River, then bank over towards runway 33. That's where the collision occurred. The helicopter was using specialized corridors for law enforcement, medevac, and military and government helicopters in that Washington area. Again, the helicopter was using specialized corridors for law enforcement, medevac, military, and government helicopters in that Washington area. The Federal Aviation Administration charts show and the NTSB confirmed that helicopters in the corridor must be at or below 200 feet off the deck, 200 feet off the sea level. Now, the investigator from the NTSB showed that the investigators currently don't have the entire readout from the Black Hawk helicopter, so they can't provide information exactly about how high that helicopter is flying. They haven't pulled all the data off the flight recorder, so they can't provide right now information to show at what altitude the helicopter is flying at. Okay, but obviously, an impact did occur. And I would say when an impact occurs, it's exactly and typically where the altitude of both aircraft were at the incident. Okay, that is the altitude where the accident occurred. Flight tracking data from the moments before the fatal mid-air collision appear to show the helicopter flying 100 feet above its allowed altitude. Okay, it was flying over 100 feet above its allowed altitude and veered off the prescribed course as well. The helicopter veered off the prescribed route along the Potomac River, according to the military side of the house. Both President Trump and the Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth have raised the issue of altitude. Friday morning, when the president did his press conference, he said the Black Hawk helicopter was flying too high. A lot. Far above the 250-foot limit. Someone was at the wrong altitude, Hegseth told Fox News on Friday morning. Was the Black Hawk helicopter too high? Was it on course? Probably not. Right now, they don't know. But that is going to come out sometime during the next 30 days. We will have more information that is going to say precisely what happened within the next 30 days. However, I'm going to warn everybody. The investigation into the Washington crash and the Philadelphia plane crash is going to take a long time. It's going to take a long time. It could take over a year or more. The National Transportation Safety Board sometimes takes 1.5 years to 5 years to come up with conclusions when it comes to these plane craft accidents. Okay? The helicopter's black box recorder has also been recovered with no signs of exterior damage, so they believe they will be able to get information off the helicopter's flight recorder. Okay? The NTSB has just begun the investigation, interviewing air traffic controllers and other people in the area. Okay? This will continue for the next few days, at least. But, as I said, the recovery of the flight recorder from the plane shows that the plane had tried to increase in pitch, raise its altitude, just prior to the incident happening. Just prior to the event happening. It means the pilots may have seen the helicopter at the last minute. Okay? Mary Schiavo, who is a former Inspector General of the Transportation Safety Board, is looking into this as well. The former Inspector General of the department is looking into this. Okay? This tells us that they did not see the helicopter until just before the impact. They had just about 1 or 2 seconds before it happened to try to pull up and get out of it. But the discrepancy between the plane's altitude and the helicopter altitude is going to be a source of a lot of investigation. Okay? At the time of the collision, The military Black Hawk helicopter was, like I said, training to evacuate government officials in the case of a catastrophic event in Washington, D.C. The pilots were trained for a scenario when something really bad happens and we need to move out our senior leaders. Okay? Now, they've been doing this for about a month now. Okay? There was real hullabaloo in December when several helicopters, actually 4 or 5 helicopters, were seen on the ground outside the West Wing of the White House. Okay? They were training. This training has been ongoing. Okay? This isn't the first time we've heard about it. But it is the first time there's been an accident as a result of it. Jonathan Kozile, who is Chief of Staff for the Army's Aviation Directorate, said that the evacuation would be part of what would be a continuity of government operation. Okay? That evacuation scenario, a drill, is part of what would be considered a continuity of government mission. That's why Hegseth and the President of the United States mentioned continuity of government on Friday at Friday's press conference. Okay? That's how that came about. Now, to carry out such an evacuation, pilots do need to be able to understand the environment, their traffic control areas, the routes, to ensure the safe travel of our senior leaders throughout our government in Washington. Okay? Now, the Potomac River is a very narrow corridor. Planes are not allowed to fly over the government White House or over the even over the Washington Monument, the Lincoln Monument, other attractions there in Washington. They're not allowed to fly there. It's a, what do they call it? A temporary flight restriction, a TFR, flight restriction. They're not allowed to fly over that area. So the Potomac River is a very narrow corridor where the air traffic can go. That's why this is where it is. Okay? Those who were killed include 3 aviators in the Black Hawk helicopter. First off, Captain Rebecca Lobach, 28-year-old pilot. Now, there are things to be said about Captain Lobach. First off, her family did not at first want her identity to be put out there. Her family did not want her identity to be put out there for whatever reason. And at this point in time, it really doesn't matter. I'm going to tell you that right up front. At this point in time, it really doesn't matter why that her family didn't want the identity to be put out, her identity to be put out there. Now, let me show you some pictures here. This is Captain Lubach. Okay? She was a 28-year-old pilot of the helicopter, okay, that hit the plane over the Potomac River. During the last 4 years, she had worked at the White House as a White House aide for Biden. She was trained to be a helicopter pilot for the 12th Aviation Battalion. Notice in this picture, she was playing in the press briefing room. This is not an actual press briefing. She was standing at the podium pretending to be the press secretary. This is how much access that Miss Rebecca Lobach had at the White House. This shows her to be a pilot. Yes, she was a qualified pilot. She had probably 400 hours in the helicopter. She had at least 400 hours in the helicopter. She was a qualified pilot. She's a very smart young woman. Okay, 28 years old. Again, this is how close to the White House that she got. But this is not the only photograph that we have of Rebecca Lobach at the White House. Okay? Now, I'm going to show you more pictures here in just a second. This is quite a story. Okay? As I've been investigating this, I found more and more evidence. And I would not have believed it had I not seen it. Okay, I'm just going to be honest with you. I would not have been believing this if I hadn't seen it. Okay, the more and more evidence that I dug into, the more I thought, what the heck happened here? What the heck happened here? I've asked myself at least 4 or 5 times over the past 5 days, what happened here? It's bad. It's bad. Okay, I'm not going to pull any qualms about it. Why did it happen? Inquiring minds want to know. Everybody deserves to know. Okay? I believe everybody should know. Give me a second here. It's quite a story. Now, I'm sorry that I am delaying you seeing these photographs that are part of this story. I thought I'd already loaded this on the software here to show you this, and now I've got it for you. I'm sorry I didn't have it right away. That's my bad. Okay, but I've got it here for you. Now, some people may think that this is worse than it is. It is. It really is. I think everybody needs to know this. Okay? What actually happened here? Okay? That's the biggest question I've had to ask. What happened here? Right here. This is a picture of Lobach in the helicopter. This is a picture of the press secretary, press briefing room, where she was handing it up for the camera. This is Lobach with a bunch of her friends. This is another picture of Lobach in a gymnasium. Okay? But there's more than that. Again, this is a picture in the press briefing room. Okay? One other picture here. Look at this. As I said, I found this from the New York Post. This shows that she was an aide to President Biden, and she was on stage with Biden when he presented the Medal of Freedom to many people there, including Hillary Clinton and George Soros. They were all there. But it gets worse. Look at this. This is another picture close to Biden. Again, up until last week, actually 2 weeks ago. Up until 2 weeks ago, she was an aide to President Biden. Now, I have real questions about this. Now I've shown you these pictures. Please bear with me while I ask these questions with all of you. All of you probably have questions that I already have as well. I'm going to try to answer these as best I can for all of you. Okay? Why did this happen? Rebecca Lobach, 28 years old, who has for the past who knows how long been an aide to Biden. And all of a sudden, she gets back in a helicopter and she's flying. Yes, she supposedly is a well-accomplished helicopter pilot. According to her parents, she's very well educated. Okay? Now, besides Lobach and helicopter, she was a pilot. The co-pilot was a man named Chief Warrant Officer Andrew Lloyd Eaves. Andrew Lloyd Eaves. He was 39 years old. He was an Army warrant officer too. Also on board the helicopter was a crew chief. Okay, his name was Austin O'Hara, Staff Sergeant Austin O'Hara. While the Army has released the names of the other two soldiers are now Lobach. Again, I want to emphasize, Lobach's name had been first withheld at the family's request. It was not the Army, but the family that was trying to get the Army to not release the information, and the family finally gave permission for the Army to release the information on Miss Lobach. Okay? Pilots who fly the 12th Aviation Battalion based out of Fort Belvoir, Belvoir, Fort Belvoir, Virginia. They frequently fly along the Potomac River and past D.C.'s Reagan National Airport for all kinds of different missions, often flying general officers or Army leaders to and from the Pentagon or other VIPs elsewhere in the Northeast. Brad Bowman, former Black Hawk pilot and member of the 12th Aviation Battalion who served on September 11th, 2001, told us this often happens. Okay? He's also flown past Reagan National Airport himself. The helicopters dropped down to the lowest altitude of the entire flight near Reagan National. They dropped altitude, okay, with the intention of getting low to deconflict with aircraft at Reagan National. Okay? They purposely fly lower there with the very intention of avoiding air traffic near Reagan National Airport. Okay? The lowest level helicopter routes have been in operation for decades. This is nothing new. Those low elevation flights are very common. Okay? That area is one of the busiest aviation operation centers in the country, if not the world. Okay? Many people, including myself, have flown out of there. But I understand now it's also one of the most dangerous as well. One of the most dangerous because there's strict codes and regulations that only allow aircraft to fly in that narrow corridor along the Potomac River. Okay? Bowman is also the senior director of the Center of Military and Political Power at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. He's a senior director of the Center on Military and Political Power at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. Now, he said it is a concert for it is a concert of communication and cooperation between pilots and the Reagan National Tower. Okay? It's an orchestration of activity between the pilots and the aircraft control tower. Cooperation. Every one of the pilots has to be on their game. Every one of the air traffic controllers has to be on their game and follow instructions exactly to the letter. Meanwhile, reports have emerged that show that tragedy is part of a larger problem. In the 3 years before the disaster, at least 2 other pilots have had near miss collisions with helicopters while trying to land at Reagan National Airport. Okay? At least 2 other pilots, have had near miss collisions with helicopters while trying to land at Reagan National. For years, Senator Tim Kaine has been a vocal critic of congestion at the airport, warning it was only a matter of time before there was going to be a deadly collision, and now there has been. He said, "We've got to get to the bottom of this crash and then take necessary steps to keep people safe." Tim Kaine is a Virginia out of Virginia. He's a Democrat out of Virginia. Okay. The inadequate staffing at Reagan Airport Tower is hardly an anomaly. As I mentioned on our report on Friday, on our Friday briefing, I already said that the tower was two-thirds staffed. Two-thirds staffed. They had 23 people on duty at the time of this crash. They had 23 certified traffic controllers on duty at the time of the crash. They usually have a complement of anywhere between 33 to 35, but that has not been the case for many years. They were understaffed. Airports around the country have struggled for controlled staffing for years. Okay, I have a friend of mine, actually, he used to be my brother-in-law, worked out of Lancaster, California. They've had problems all over this country trying to get air traffic controllers certified and get them working in the towers. This has been going on for years. Okay, and you can find a review of government data everywhere and interviews with aviation experts as well. I pulled the information myself. The Trump administration is working with Federal Aviation Administration to increase the staffing levels of air traffic controllers. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy told news media on Sunday that Trump and everyone else is trying to investigate about these staffing levels. It's been going on for a long time. Okay? Now, as you heard President Trump on Friday, he was very adamant that transportation safety with pilots and air traffic controllers is at least going to be perfect. Okay, they're going to have to revamp everything they do. They have to get the best and the brightest, according to President Trump. Okay? Now, Duffy told Jake Tapper of CNN the other day, we're going to surge air traffic controllers. We're going to bring in the best and the brightest. That's what President Trump said on Friday. But the years-long training process for certified air traffic controllers means that the increase in staffing is not going to happen overnight. The increase in staffing at the airports is not going to happen overnight. It's going to take a while. Okay? We all need to be aware of this. It's going to happen for over years. Okay? The mid-air collision between the Army Black Hawk helicopter and American Airlines American Eagle Flight 5342 near DC's Reagan National Airport marks the deadliest aviation disaster. The deadliest air aviation disaster since 2001, here just in the United States alone. Crews are still working to recover the bodies out of the wreckage. And within the next few days, they're going to pull the wreckage from the water. At that point, they will be able to get into the wreckage to retrieve the rest of the bodies out of the aircraft. At the present time, I'm being told by investigators that there are approximately 52 people that have been recovered from the wreckage. It's very hard to get further into the wreckage before the bodies are out of the water and the wreckage is out of the water. Okay? The victims include a number of young figure skaters, as I reported. Okay? The figure skaters were returning from a development camp in Kansas City, as well as 3 soldiers who were aboard the Black Hawk helicopter. The NTSB is investigating the devastating crash. It's going to take at least 30 days to release a preliminary report. The final report will determine the probable cause, and that may take much longer, up to a year, year and a half at least. 52 bodies have been recovered from the water and the wreckage scene on the water. Okay? Rescue crews are still working to recover the bodies. And the D.C. Office of the Chief Medical Examiner is also on the scene. And I can imagine it's very hard. I can imagine it's going to be very hard. Now, the rescuers are also going through a lot. Okay? Number one, they're battling the cold of the water. They're battling air temperature as well. It's been very, very cold in Washington, D.C. And the water temperature is below freezing. The water temperature is below freezing. Guys, just last Monday, the temperature of the Potomac River was below freezing and the river was iced over. So you can imagine by Wednesday night when the aircraft went into the water, how cold it was. People can only survive in that cold a temperature for no more than an hour. So it's not surprising to me and most other people that those people literally froze to death in the water. Okay? Black Hawk helicopter, while briefly stabilized to assist with rescue efforts, remains in the water. The wreckage of the helicopter is stabilized in the water, but it still remains in the Potomac. Today, salvage crews from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and the U.S. Navy Supervisor of Salvage and Diving are assessing the area and are preparing for the recovery of the aircraft. Okay? Divers from the salvage company are surveying the wreckage throughout today. Barges and equipment are expected to arrive this afternoon and tonight. No wreckage is expected to be removed even today. DC Fire and EMS Chief John Donnelly. Oh, boy, am I butchering his name. John, I'm sorry I butchered your name. John Donnelly is a DC Fire and EMS Chief. Previously, he said it was believed it was necessary to remove the fuselage of the plane out of the water in order to recover all the bodies, and that is why they're doing it now. They can't get all the bodies out of the aircraft. Now, he was asked on Friday if authorities are confident that they know where the remaining bodies are. He said, "We think we know where they all are, but we won't know until we're done. We won't know until we're done." Now, an ex-Black Hawk helicopter pilot believed three things went wrong in the plane collision. Former Black Hawk helicopter pilot Elizabeth McCormick said she believes that three things have led to the collision between the American Airlines flight and the U.S. Army Black Hawk helicopter over the Potomac. The jet flying from Wichita, Kansas, was carrying 64 people. The Black Hawk helicopter, like I said, was carrying 3 people. Total loss of souls, 67 people. Now, this is going to take time. It's going to take time and a lot of effort. Things are going to continue to happen. Things will continue to happen, I promise you that. It's not over. It's not over. Now, does anybody have any questions so far? Does anybody have any questions so far? Hurricane Heather asking, did they answer why it flew into the plane? No. Now, I have answered a few questions here. Let me clarify. Okay. They said that the helicopter was flying about 100 to 120, 150 feet higher than it was supposed to be. The helicopter should have been at no more than 200 feet above the ground. In order for that helicopter to have collided with a plane, it had to have climbed to at least 325 to 350 feet high, where it collided with the plane. So the helicopter was flying higher than it should have been. The helicopter pilot was flying higher than it should have been. Was it intentional? We don't know. We don't know. Okay? Now, why did I say that intentional word? Because there's a lot of talk out there. There's a lot of talk out there. I do not even want to bring that up. I wanted to quell that rumor. I do not believe it was an intentional crash. Okay, I want to make that clear. Right now, we're just trying to verify information. That's all we're trying to do is verify information. I've been on the phone today with the people from Philadelphia, including the mayor's office. I've been on the phone today with the National Transportation Safety Board, trying to get information for this program. And they may, in fact, be watching this program as we speak. Okay? Okay? Do you guys have any more questions about anything we said so far? Now, I want to talk about something that, in my opinion, is very unpleasant. Okay? All of you know that we have some Democrats that are very hot under the collar about President Trump winning the election. Total Vagabonds from Ireland is here. Welcome, welcome. We appreciate you and Dean being here. Dean is from England. Vagabond is from Ireland. You guys know that it is in the middle of the night in England right now? It's incredible. Right now it is about 7:50 p.m. on the East Coast. Actually, no, it's not. It's closer to 8 p.m. here on the East Coast. Okay? It's late. And these guys in England and Ireland are up here in the middle of the night about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. So I really appreciate you being here, guys. It means the world to us. David Catman says it's 58 minutes after midnight, almost 1 a.m. Incredible. We love you guys. We really do. Love you guys a lot. Now, anyway, I want to go in and talk about what's going on in Washington, D.C. It's not pleasant, okay? The Democrats are mad, hot under the collar that President Trump is president. All kinds of things are happening in Washington, D.C. First off, there's still inquiries into the confirmation of the Attorney General, Pam Bondi. The Democrats hate it. They're trying to make her slip up in their conversations with Pam Bondi. She's not even confirmed yet. Apparently, the Senate Nomination Committee is still trying to vote. Okay? Still trying to vote whether they're going to recommend her confirmation. Someone else. Guess what else? Or who else, I should say. Can you think of who else might be under confirmation status? Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Okay? And someone else who's up for confirmation for the national security chief. All three of them being questioned harshly, very harshly. And Kash Patel is as well. Elaine says Kash Patel, yes, he's also there. So there's 4 people. Now, I've been monitoring their nominations as well. The Democrats hate their guts. Many Democrats on the selection committee are trying to keep them from being confirmed. Okay? I've heard from Chuck Schumer. I've seen Chuck Schumer question him. I've seen many other Democrats in the committees question him, lying through their teeth. Lying through their teeth. Even Pencilneck Schiff from California, lying through his teeth. He should not even be a senator. He resigned from his congressional seat on the Congress in the House of Representatives to assume the Senate position that he got voted in for in November. When he was in Congress, guys, when Pencilneck Schiff was in Congress, he lied to Congress. He fabricated information to the committee investigating what happened with January 6th in Washington, D.C. in 20 21. Okay? He fabricated information and gave it to the congressman and gave it to the news media. He lied through his teeth. And others, congressmen also did too. Now Schiff is in Senate doing the same thing. Lying about Kash Patel, lying about Pam Bondi, lying about everybody that's still trying to get confirmed. Lying through their teeth. And not just that. During this weekend, Senator Chuck Schumer, who is now the minority leader in the Senate, okay, he made threatening comments toward the Supreme Court justices and the President of the United States. Chuck Schumer lied and made threatening comments about the Supreme Court justices and the President of the United States. Interim D.C. U.S. Attorney Ed Martin has launched a preliminary investigation into Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, Democrat out of New York, making the threatening remarks toward Supreme Court Justices Brett Kavanaugh and Neil Gorsuch and the President. Okay? The probe centers on Schumer's comments during a rally on the steps of the U.S. Supreme Court, where he warned the justices of the U.S. Supreme Court that they would pay the price if they voted to overturn Roe versus Wade, which was the 1973 abortion decision that legalized abortion. In March 2020, Schumer addressed a crowd of abortion rights supporters, including criticizing Republican-led efforts to restrict reproductive rights in states like Louisiana and Missouri and even Texas. Then Schumer turned and directed his remarks at Justice Kavanaugh and Gorsuch, who were appointed by President Trump. Quote, Schumer said this, quote, "I want to tell you, Gorsuch, I want to tell you, Kavanaugh, you have released the whirlwind and you will pay the price. You won't know what hits you if you go forward with these awful decisions." The comment sparked an immediate backlash, with critics accusing Schumer of threatening the justices. Chief Justice John Roberts issued a rare public statement condemning the remarks, calling them inappropriate and dangerous. Schumer later walked his statements back on the Senate floor, claiming he had not intended to threaten the justices, but had instead used strong language to express his frustration. Again, he's one of a number of other Democrats that continue to go off the rocker, go off the reservation. In a January 21st letter, U.S. Attorney Ed Martin said, quote, "We take threats against public officials very seriously. I look forward to your cooperation, Mr. Schumer." Now, something else has happened. Another high-ranking Democrat, House Minority Leader in the Congress, the House of Representatives, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, also a Democrat out of New York. Birds of a feather, don't they? Birds of a feather. He melted down and had bad remarks about President Trump. He made remarks and rebuked Donald Trump about Trump's diversity, equity, and inclusion DEI hiring policies in response to the deadly Washington, D.C. plane crash, calling those remarks irresponsible and misdirection. Irresponsible misdirection. However, get this, Jeffrey's own comments sparked controversy as he appeared to urge his sponsors to fight Trump's agenda, quote, "Fight Trump's agenda in the streets. Fight Trump's agenda in the streets." Don Patoka says in the chat, "That's a threat, Ron." It surely is. Where else have we heard this? How many of you heard of Senator Maxine Waters? Maxine Waters also made threats, didn't she? I'm sure you've seen her threats several years ago when she was out in some restaurant. I don't know whether it was New York or somewhere else, but she was making statements in a restaurant to supporters, telling them to go fight, to go out on the streets and fight. And she said she didn't care where they did it. She said gas stations, cause a riot, cause a commotion. Those are her words. In gas stations, wherever you are, cause a commotion, cause a riot. Inciting political violence. That's what they're doing. That's exactly what they're doing. Maxine Waters, Hakeem Jeffries, and Chuck Schumer are not the only ones. Okay? They're not the only ones. I've heard it all over the place. Now, during the confirmation hearings, Democrats also made accusatory remarks, trying to incite violence and get the nominees to say something out of order. Kash Patel stood up for everybody. In fact, Kash Patel and what's her name out of Hawaii, that changed her affiliation from Democrat to Republican, and then President Trump nominated her to be head of the Defense Intelligence Agency. Okay? She and Kash Patel has stood up and said, no, we're not going to go there. We're not going to go there. And they have been calling out these Democrats right and left. The Democrats are full bore trying to cause problems. And Kash Patel and this woman are going after him right and left. Now, I don't really understand why. I can't remember her name because I've even shaken her hand. Dr. Jamin's Place says Kash Patel don't mess around. He's right. He's right. He doesn't. And even these Democrats have tried to say, are you going to go after Democrats? Are you going to go after Democrats? And Kash Patel says, I'm not planning on going after anyone right now. If I'm asked to investigate, I will investigate. If I'm confirmed, I will investigate. Okay? These are swamp creatures. These Democrats are swamp creatures. And that was brought out also in the hearings with Kash Patel. You said you're going to go after the deep state. Does that mean you're going to go after us who are Democrats? The Democrats even tried to put Kash Patel in a no-win situation. Okay? They asked him point blank, are you going to go after me? I haven't said anything about it, have I? Well, you said. Yeah, Tulsi Gabbard. Patricia Rice reminded me it's Tulsi Gabbard out of Hawaii. She's standing up for her own as well. Pam Bondi's standing up for her own. They're not allowing these Democrats to get away with what they're doing. Now, I fully expect them all to be confirmed. But right now, it's still up in the air because the Democrats are horsing around. Okay? It's backlash, political violence, trying to incite violence out even on the streets. Speaking of the press conference, Hakeem Jeffries rejected Trump's assertion that DEI-driven hiring and air traffic control could have played a role in the crash. Well, guess what? With everything that I pulled out so far and everything else that's coming out in the investigation, the air traffic control problem completely comes out of DEI. Okay? They've had a hard time finding qualified people without putting in everybody else. They've disqualified white people. They've disqualified black people. They've disqualified Hispanic people. Trying to put in those other people that are not qualified. Okay? Kash Patel and all the other nominees that are undergoing confirmation hearings right now are standing up and saying, you're not going to get away with this. Kash Patel even said today during one of his hearings this morning, you're not going to get away with it. I'm going to do what I'm asked to do. I'm going to do what I have been asked to do. Then they said, one of the Democrats asked him, if President Trump tells you to do something, you're going to do it. I'm going to do whatever I can as the FBI director. I'm going to do whatever I can do as an FBI director. I'm an investigator. I'm going to investigate and do the investigation and find out where it leads me. Okay? He's taken the high road. He's not falling down in the mire with the other idiots. He's taken the high road. I'm an investigator. I'm going to do what I have to do to get to the bottom of it. Okay? It's unreal. Dr. James Place says he too has been a victim of DEI hires. I believe I was even had to go through that in the 80s, late 80s and early 90s when I was a police officer for the federal government in San Diego. Okay? It went back as far as that. Sad. It's been going on for many, many years. Okay? Now, President Trump's response to this tragedy is very commendable. But Hakeem Jeffries, a Democrat, the minority leader in the House, says President Trump is irresponsible and is also completely misdirected. Jeffries said, at a time when we should be focused on the facts and supporting the victims' families. He said, President Trump is using this moment to push baseless political narratives. Trump in his earlier remarks blamed DEI hiring policies for potentially compromising aviation safety, vowing to roll back diversity-focused hiring across federal agencies, which he has done. All federal agencies, including the FAA. Now, while Jeffries criticized Trump's rhetoric, his own closing remarks in Brooklyn stirred controversy. He said, this is Jeffries. Jeffries said, quote, we're going to keep focused on the need to look out for everyday New Yorkers and everyday Americans who are under assault by the extreme MAGA Republicans and the MAGA Republican agendas. They're trying to cut taxes for billionaire donors and wealthy corporations, then stick New Yorkers and working class Americans across this country with a bill. That's not acceptable. We're going to fight it legislative. We're going to fight it in the courts. We're going to fight it right here on the streets. Who does that sound like? Who's that sound like? Chuck Schumer. Jeffries, the minority leader in the House, and Schumer, the minority leader in the Senate, both saying the same things. We're going to fight it in the streets. And Maxine Waters doing the same thing. Like-minded, huh? All the Democrats want to do is create problems. Political violence. We've seen it happen. We've seen it happen all throughout Biden's presidency in Washington State, Oregon, Chicago, New York, and other cities around this country. Political violence. Incredible what's happened. Okay? Jeffries' statement immediately drew criticism from Republican leaders who accused him of promoting violence. That's exactly what happened. He's promoting violence. Okay? Will Leader Jeffries apologize for his disgusting threat? Or will he double down on the same calls for violence that have plagued this country for years? That's what we've seen. Even last year, we had violent protests in Washington, D.C. as the election neared closer to November. We saw violent protests in Washington, D.C. We saw it in New York. We saw it in Chicago. We've seen it all over this country. Violent protests. Okay? Now, this administration is going to move forward, reversing Biden-era policies on issues such as DEI hiring, immigration, and national security. Now, I want to talk something else before I talk about earthquakes. Down at the border, down at our southern border, I'm talking Texas and California and Arizona. President Trump has President Trump has sent 10,000 Marines to the border in California. 10,000 Marines from Camp Pendleton at the border in California. There's another 5,000 Navy people and Army people sent to Texas and Arizona to stop the influx of Hispanic people, or I shouldn't even say Hispanic people from around the world coming into the United States, and they have stopped it. They have reasonably stopped it. But something else has happened during this past weekend. Drug cartels in Mexico have fired on our Border Patrol. Drug cartels has fired on our Border Patrol. And guess what? CBP and our military have fired back. And President Trump got with President Sheinbaum, over in Mexico, and Mexican president has ordered 10,000 troops on the southern border to stop the cartels. So now it's the Mexican military and the U.S. military. They're on the border to stop the cartels from doing what they're doing. Unreal. Unreal. Now, is it going to continue? Probably for a while. Probably for a while. Yes, this is a political stalemate. Now, while President Trump has also leveled tariffs against China, Mexico, and Canada, today, President Trump lifted sanctions to Mexico because the Mexican president has backed down. President Trump has lifted tariff sanctions against Mexico because the Mexican president has backed down. What's going to happen in Canada? What's going to happen in Canada? Okay? I'm wondering. You dear folks here that are part of the EMA program from Canada, I hope that you will also send me as much information as you can about what's happening in your areas. I want to hear from you. I want to help you also. I want to help Canada. I want to help Canada. I'm standing here with you. Rebecca the Explorer says Canada has paused too. I hope that's the case. I hope that's the case. I don't think the tariffs against China is going to end. Okay? Because China has taken advantage of this country, and other countries have as well. It's not just Canada, China, and Mexico. It's other countries around this globe. It's happened. It's happened. Okay? Do I like it? No. I don't think it's necessary. I think the President of the United States has to get serious with these crazy people with other countries. Biden's let it get away. And in fact, in my opinion, I think Biden and Obama let other countries take advantage of the U.S. That's my opinion. That's my opinion. I've seen it. I've seen it too many times. Way too many times. I hope other countries realize that we have a president that's going to stand up for the U.S. We have a president that's going to stand up and be counted. He's not going to let this crap continue. And he's here to protect all of us. This is not just about me or anybody in particular. It's about all of us standing together. All of us. It doesn't matter what country you live in. All of us standing together. One voice, one thing in mind. Friendship and loyalty to each country. That's what we need. Linda Covington says, love the Canadians, but not trust the Prime Minister. Exactly. Trudeau's got to go. Trudeau's made all kinds of statements against his country. He needs to go. And hopefully he'll finally leave soon. He said by March, we'll see what happens. He's already said he's going to leave the presidency come March. Do I trust it? Absolutely not. I don't trust Trudeau any further than I can trust Biden at all. But we have to stand together. We have to stand together. As Heather said here in the chat, we took our republic back. This country is not a democracy, it's a republic, and we took it back. The Democrats haven't gotten that through their thick skulls. The Democrats want it their way and their way only, but it's not going to work that way. It's just not going to happen. Not going to happen at all. Okay, guys. Yes, Arnold Smith says he resigned as a prime minister until a new liberal leader is chosen. Yeah, his resignation is not official for however long it takes. Okay? And with his administration, it could be a very long time. He does not want to give control away. He wants to have an iron fist over Canada, just like Hitler did, an iron fist. And I don't like any reference to Hitler as well as I didn't like reference to President Trump as a Hitler. He's not. But Trump is not a tyrant either. But from the looks of what Trudeau has done, it seems like he is a tyrant. I've heard that from all of you. I've heard that from a lot of different other people. That Trudeau is a tyrant. All right. Let me get off my political bandwagon. Let's talk about earthquakes, okay? Want to talk about earthquakes. First off, here in the southern Cascadia subduction zone, right here. We've had another small earthquake here. Okay, this is over in the Triple Junction area. You can see right here, just west of the Triple Junction. Let me pull this map down. This vertical line here is the Cascadia subduction zone. It goes from here at the Triple Junction all the way to Queen Charlotte Island, British Columbia. This is a 3.7 minor earthquake. Actually, 3.7 small earthquake, I'm sorry. 2.0, 2.9 are minor earthquakes. 3.0, 3.9 are considered small earthquakes. This is a 3.7. But you need to understand, this may be about 1,000 feet deep. This 3.7 earthquake may be about 1,000 feet deep, 2 kilometers deep. This earthquake right here, just south of the Gorda Escarpment here, further west off the Gorda Escarpment. This is a 2.7 minor earthquake here. This, folks, is 1/4 mile deep. That's about 1/4 mile deep. Okay? 2 earthquakes here, very close to the surface. Very close to the surface. Let's back out here and go north. I want to go over to British Columbia, Canada here. Right here. Up here near Queen Charlotte Island. There was a 4.5 earthquake here today. USBS has taken it down. Let me see if I can get my tablet here and find the earthquake app, and if so, I'll show you what has happened today from the EMSC map. The USBS does not tell the truth, as I've said before. Rarely, if ever, have they told the truth, and I don't believe they're going to anytime soon. They just don't do it. They don't do it. Let me see this. Here we go. Okay. I have the the EMSC map here. And as I've said, the EMSC map comes, if you go to my earthquake app on the App Store, the Google App Store here, you're going to see this map, okay? Now, right here, Ohio, okay? I'm going to go from Northern California over here for just a minute. Bear with me here. The reason I'm doing this is I don't want to forget this. Okay, this is Oak Hill, Ohio. This is a 3.05 earthquake in Oak Hill, Ohio. Okay, right next to it, just to the north. This is a 2.8. So we've had a small and a minor earthquake here. This is near Reno, Ohio here. They say it's 1 mile northeast of Reno, Ohio. It's in Reno, Ohio. Reno, Ohio. 2.8, minor earthquake. This is a 3.05 in Oak Hill. It says 1 mile northwest. It's in Oak Hill, Ohio. Notice where these earthquakes are. Right here. Now, what is there? What is this? This, folks, is the New Madrid Fault. The New Madrid Fault comes from down here in the Gulf of America, right here, all the way up here to the Great Lakes, and also it veers off here to the northeast into Ohio, in the river valley of Ohio, the New Madrid Fault. I believe these two earthquakes may have been caused by the New Madrid Fault. Okay? Also, further south here, on the New Madrid Fault. Folks, this earthquake here is in Howardville, Missouri. A 2.0 earthquake in Howardville, Missouri. It says 2 miles west-southwest of Howardville. It's in Missouri, guys. In Missouri. It's on the center part of the New Madrid Fault. The northern part of the New Madrid Fault is up here. This is the central part of the New Madrid Fault here. This is a 2.0 minor earthquake here. Minor earthquake. Let's go west here, really quick. Bow Leg, Ohio. Bow Leg, Ohio, also both these earthquakes are oil and gas related. This is a huge oil field here. Huge oil field. This is a 1.38 tremor here. 1.38 tremor. Right here, Cole, Oklahoma. A 1.88 tremor. Southwestern Texas, we're going to have earthquakes here all the time. This also here is a huge oil field. Oil and gas exploration all throughout Texas and Oklahoma. That's why those earthquakes hit. Let's go back over here. Okay, I showed you this area of the geysers area of Sonoma, California. Last week we had 50 plus earthquakes here. Now we have 20 plus. This is the geysers area, a geothermal area just south of the Clear Lake volcano. South of the Clear Lake volcano, that's why these earthquakes are hitting. Because men have drilled into the upper magma chambers of the Clear Lake volcano, and the seismic energy coming in off the Pacific Ocean hits these man-made earthquake faults. Anytime we drill for oil or gas or to siphon steam off of the volcanoes. It's going to cause the seismic energy here to hit these man-made earthquake faults and cause rock fracturing at the faults, causing earth movement. That's why we have these earthquakes here. Again, here on the Cascadia subduction zone, actually not on the Cascadia subduction zone, I'm sorry, at the triple junction, I should say. The triple junction, we have two earthquakes, minor in nature there. Let's go north here. I want to show you something else that's happened here. Right here. Okay? Right here. This is Queen Charlotte Island, or what they call Haida Gwaii. Haida Gwaii. Let me show you this earthquake here. This is a 2.60. 2.60 earthquake here. Minor earthquake there. But what hit right there? Okay? Now, I may have been mistaken calling it a 4.5. I believe it was a 4.5 when it first happened. Now, when this earthquake happened, 4:10 p.m. Eastern Time. When this earthquake happened here, and this is just west-northwest of Port Hardy, British Columbia, Canada. I thought I heard it come out as a 4.5. It's showing here as a 3.1. 3.1 small quake. Folks, where is it at? It's on the Cascadia subduction zone. Cascadia subduction zone here. What about this earthquake here? Look at this. This is a 2.16 minor earthquake here on the Juan de Fuca Fault. On the Juan de Fuca Fault. 121 miles west of Port Hardy, Canada. Port Hardy, Canada. British Columbia. So we have earthquakes on the Cascadia subduction zone and the Juan de Fuca Fault, and very far up here, Queen Charlotte Island here. Okay, earthquakes today. Now, I'm not going to stop for very long here in Alaska. As you can see, there are earthquakes here in Alaska. One earthquake here, okay? This is up in the Arctic Circle. This area right here is called the Arctic Circle. This is a 2.60. 2.6 minor earthquake here. Venetchee, Alaska. Venetchee, Alaska. Okay, right there. How about here? I want to show you this. This is a large earthquake. 5.0 earthquake up here, right between Russia and Alaska. Russia's right here and Alaska's right here. A 5.0 large earthquake right there. 22 miles south of Diomede, Alaska. Okay? Right between Russia and Alaska today. Now, I want to mainly show you large earthquakes here. Okay? This is Japan. This is Japan, southern Japan here. Let me increase the size of this, and I'll show you what's going on here. Now, this is over here, south of Japan here. Okay? This is called the Ryukyu Islands. This area south of